For the second session of the September virtual training for Widening the Pipeline, August 11th, 2023 marked the 50th anniversary of hip hop, a globally recognized and lauded musical genre with roots in the Bronx. One of our next speakers is a veteran journalist with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution who used the power of his voice to produce a documentary that reminds us that hip hop has roots that extend beyond New York City. Let's meet one of those speakers now. He produced the documentary, The South Got Something to Say. Ernie Suggs has been a reporter at the AJC since 1997, and he currently covers race and culture, as well as breaking international news and investigative stories. Before the AJC, he reported for newspapers in New York City and Durham, North Carolina, covering stories ranging from politics to higher education. Since 2016, Ernie has managed the AJC's award-winning Black History Month project through AJC Sepia, the paper's Black news curation site. He is the author of the book, The Many Lives of Andrew Young, profiling that civil rights pioneer and former mayor of Atlanta. And I believe we'll be joined later by Ryon Horne, an award-winning filmmaker and video journalist for the AJC. For more than 2 decades, Ryon has worked as a video and audio producer, covering breaking news, entertainment, sports, and features. As a documentarian, Ryon has won 2 Emmy Awards for the AJC and an Edward R. Murrow Award. I want to thank you, Ernie, for joining us, and I see now that Ryon has joined us as well, so we're all set to go. Thank you both for joining us. We are going to be showing a clip from The South Got Something to Say fairly soon, but I wanted to start with both of you in the same way that I've addressed the other speakers in today's training, and that is, we'd like you to start by giving us your backstory as a journalist and how you came to the decision to become journalists. So let's start with you, Ernie.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having us. Again, sorry I'm late. All this Kamala Harris stuff all this debate stuff has got us crazy here at the paper. But I have been working at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution for 27 years now. I graduated from college, North Carolina Central University in 1990, and I've pretty much been fortunate enough to have worked in my field ever since I graduated. So my first job was at Gannett Westchester Newspapers right out of college. I got that job after having an internship with them the previous summer, the summer between my junior and senior year. And then I moved back to North Carolina to work at a newspaper. Then I came to Atlanta in 1997, primarily with the intentions of covering civil rights and race. We had a large newspaper at that time. So my actual first job at the paper was night cops. So I worked from 3 to 11, 3 to 12 every day, which, as you young people would understand, is not very good on your dating life, working from 3 to 11 every day. So I struggled through that job for about 6 months. Then they moved me on to cover higher education and then race and civil rights. So this is what I've always wanted to do, be a newspaper reporter or be some sort of storyteller. And I've been lucky enough to have a nice career. And we'll talk about it later. It's kind of, as I've gotten older in my career, I've had to adjust to figuring out ways to tell stories differently. And it's not all about writing newspaper stories anymore. It's not all about, being on deadline anymore. So you got to figure out different ways in which to do it. And 2 years ago, I decided I was going to write a book. And that was another way to tell a story about something I've been covering and writing about for a long time, basically civil rights. And then last year, I teamed up with Ryon and his brother, Tyson, and another young woman named Deasia Page, and we came out with this amazing documentary called The South Got Something to Say. So it's kind of like, I hate to say it about myself, but it's about the importance of reinventing yourself. So I've been able to, in the 27 years I've been here, been able to kind of reinvent myself as a journalist to kind of figure out different things in which I can stay relevant, in which I can still continue to tell stories and tell better stories. So that's a little bit about my little backstory.
Ernie, that is so important. It's one of the central pillars of the way I designed this program is to give journalists the tools that if they decide they want to be in this business 10, 15 years from now, they can do that. So thank you for sharing that. Ryon, let's pivot over to you. Let's learn about your backstory and how you chose journalism.
Sure. I apologize for being late. Like Ernie said, it's like still working in news is you'll start doing something and then realize it's like 9 o'clock at night. But um, I started in journalism very young, professional journalism very young. I when I was in 11th grade in high school in South Florida, I participated in a project that the University of Miami and the Miami Herald created to pick out selected students through the state to be a part of their summer program. And so through that, I had realized like, oh man, I really love this journalism, really love writing. I knew I wanted to be in the field somehow, but in my 11th grade year, I figured out how to do an internship with the Miami Herald while I was in high school. And so for 2 years in 11th and 12th grade, I worked for the Miami Herald. And then when I graduated high school, came to Atlanta, I knew I was coming to Atlanta. I knew I wanted to work for the AJC. I thought I was, I don't want to curse, but I thought I was the big thing, So I thought I was like, I'm gonna come up to Atlanta and get a job at the newspaper, and I walked in the newsroom. I don't know how I got a meeting with Angela Tuck, who was the recruiter at the time, and they were in the middle of getting ready for the Olympics, and somehow I got a meeting with Angela Tuck, and she looked at me and said, "Leave and go get some experience and come back." And so that's what I did for like 3 years. I just freelance writing while I was in college, doing entertainment reporting and doing just a lot of freelancing. And I came back and she gave me a job as a clerk, answering phones and delivering mail in the newsroom. And that was in 2000. And then ever since then, I just needed the door open. I just needed the opportunity, and she gave it to me. And I just made my intentions known in the newsroom. I made everybody know that I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be here. I wanted to do something. And I just kind of worked myself around the entire newsroom, working in features, working in news, business, metro. Then ended up in sports. Then from there, I was on the copy desk of all these sections, and then designing pages. And then from there, I went to the image desk preparing photos. And outside the newspaper, I started a film production company with my brothers called the Horne Brothers. And we were doing weddings, and we were doing short films and short films and feature films. And at that time, YouTube was becoming a thing, and video online was becoming a thing. And the newspaper wanted to go in the direction of video production, video stories online. And so I kind of raised my hand up at the right time and, showed them my reels, showed them my work. And I was able to combine two great loves of mine, which was journalism and filmmaking, and realized that was just documentary work. And so they hired me as the first video producer for the newspaper, and I've been doing that for 17, going on 18 years now. And through that, I would have never believed in a million years that when I wanted to pursue print journalism, that video journalism would be the thing that would take me around the world, meet so many different people, and do so many incredible stories of just civilian life. And it's been really rewarding since, because I could do real great journalism with filmmaking, with cinematic filmmaking. And that's what I do.
You are reminding me of the power of meeting a pivotal person at an important point of your life, because I've known Angela since 1986 or 7, and she has mentored and supported and inspired so many people in this business.
Absolutely.
It's great to hear
Oh yeah,
that.
she's
And And
I owe a lot to her.
I think listening to Ryan's story, I think Ryan and I say this humbly, I think Ryan and I are two of the best journalists at the paper. Mm-hmm. I say that, not to brag, but I just think we are. And I think if you listen to my story, you listen to Ryan's story, it's two different ways in which we got here. I came the traditional way of, graduating, we both graduated from college, but, I got an internship.
Actually, I didn't graduate. Yeah.
But I got the internship and I filled out the applications and I applied for all the right papers and got the job that I expected to get out of college. Whereas Ryan, came here 17 years old and was knocking on doors and hustled. And trust me, Ryan was a copy boy, and I'm not saying that to be a bad thing, but I remember when I was a young reporter and Ryan was running around delivering copy. And now I say all the time, and Ryan has heard me say this, Ryan is the best journalist at the paper in terms of storytelling, in terms of putting together a story. And I think that's just about his hustling, his wanting to do it, his wanting to be successful and not taking no for an answer, and being smart enough to see what the trends were, being smart enough to say, I'm going to get in on this early. We as a paper need to get in on this early. And I'm the person who can kind of do that. So I guess if you guys are looking at getting into journalism or whether or not you're getting into any kind of career, I think Ryan and I are kind of those opposite ends of the same coin in which we came at it as different ways, but we found ways to actually get in it and be successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to urge the journalists to really take to heart what Ernie has just said. It took me a good 50 years to be able to say that I feel like I'm one of the best at what I do in this business, to feel confident enough in my experience. And that's an important place to reach. I would hope that most of you can get there a lot sooner than I did, but it's very powerful for me to hear Ernie state that and mean it and know that he has the receipts to prove it. So
thank you.
As I shared with both of you in our original conversation, I am a devoted and hardcore and serious hip hop head. So it was an absolute privilege and thrill for me to attend the viewing of The South Got Something to Say at the MLK Library in DC back in June. So we're going to take this moment to watch a 2-minute clip from the movie. I think this particular YouTube clip will summarize and sum up the reason why this month's virtual training is called The Power of Our Voices. So Sid, if you could share that clip with us, that would be great.
Hip hop is a product of Black people. It's a product of Black song and celebration.
Hip hop's most pulled elements are pulled from the South.
We always go back to that moment of the Source Awards.
Atlanta is still the mecca for hip hop.
Since we're so heavily influenced through soul music, it was never a ceiling on the things that we could do.
I didn't realize it would be such a huge moment in hip hop history.
Everybody wants your rhythm, but they don't want your blues. No one can deny the power of the South now.
As goes the South, so goes the rest of the country.
I wanted to take us to the decision to approach editors and managers at the AJC to ask them or to say that you wanted to do this documentary. Can you please tell us about that moment?
Yeah, last year, obviously, everybody knows it was the 50th anniversary of hip hop. And so every news organization, every program, every platform, everyone was looking for a story to tell to kind of help talk about the history of, hip hop in America. And so obviously we were coming in at towards the middle, almost like the first half of the first quarter of the year was already gone. And a lot of these organizations had already been working on this from the summer previous. Right. And we had a new publisher, a new editor-in-chief, Leroy Chapman, who was the first African-American editor of the newspaper in 155 years. And we had Andrew Morris, who came to us from CNN as the new publisher and president of the organization. And there were talks of wanting to do something on the 50th. And at first, it was more, the talks that were being presented to us was more of a like general topic of, you know, hip hop with Cool Herc and all these folks. But being that we're in Atlanta, this is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and Atlanta's place in hip hop is undeniable and unmatched and cannot be duplicated. We, Tyson, my brother Byron, Ernie, Deasia, well, before Deasia came on, we looked at it as, let's tell this story of 50 years in hip hop from the Atlanta POV. And so we put a deck together of the people that we thought, or we knew we could get in front of the camera immediately. We knew that we didn't have a lot of time because it was already the second quarter and we had to get going. So we had to focus on what story, how this story will be told in a short amount of time with the people we could get to, knowing that we're going into the summer. And so we presented that idea to the executives, and in that meeting, they didn't need to think it over. In that meeting, they greenlit it. And it was like, go ahead, let's see what you can do. And we started right away. We hit the ground running a little bit. We were also, it was a struggle too at the same time because we were all daily newspaper people. So we're doing daily work and we all got stories that we still got to do. Tyson and I had already just finished shooting a big project. We had started another big project, and then we got assigned another big project before even the South Got Something to Say got started. So we had to figure out how we were going to do all this at the same time. And so, we knew that the pinpoint of Atlanta's hip hop story starts with a lot of people with that night that you just showed, the South Got Something to Say quote from Andre 3000 in 1995. A lot of people's minds goes to that moment in time as the beginning of hip hop. But we knew, all of us knew that that wasn't the beginning of hip hop in Atlanta. And so we wanted to like center people right there in 1995. But then we had to figure out a way to like, hey, this is what happened in 1995. But all this other stuff happened before then. And then we could talk about what happened in 1995 and beyond. You know what I'm saying? So it was a challenge to kind of figure that out. But I think we did it masterfully. I think, that's the joy of narrative writing. Because I think that what makes us special, I think, is that the core group of our filmmaking comes from journalism writing, not broadcast writing, not film TV writing. It comes from print writing, how you construct, how you orchestrate, how you outline a story in print. I think that is the key to how we've masterfully been able to translate that type of writing into filmmaking. And
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to jump in while I'm thinking. I think this harkens back to what Ernie was just saying about his career and about how he perceives the both of you at the paper. Mm-hmm. And so, Ernie, I want to ask you about that early pitch and that early vision for the piece, because you are so expert at storytelling and have such an award-winning career and background. But when you think about the early stages of your career and trying to pitch a project like this to where you are now and the knowledge and that you bring to the table, talk to us about how you were able to structure the early vision for this project.
Well, as Ryan was alluding to, we wanted to tell a story. And I think that with me and Deasia Page, who's this brilliant young writer, she's also an author. She's like 25 years old. This is her latest book, The College Diaries. The way we came at it was that everything we did, every person we interviewed, and Deasia and I were pretty much at every interview that was shot by Ryan and Tyson and Byron, we were there interviewing the people. So, and even in our interviews, we were constructing and thinking about how we were going to tell the story, how we were going to tell Goody Mob story and T.I. story and Lil Yachty story, how it was all coming about, how it was all kind of going to fit into one thing. So had this not been a documentary, for example, Deasia and I still could have written a 500-page book based on our interviews and based on our research about what hip hop meant to Atlanta during the last 50 years. So we approached it as Ryon said, because we worked for a newspaper, because we were trained as newspaper reporters, and because Deasia and I were also continuously writing stories every day. So we would go out and interview T.I. at, Ryan and Ty say, hey, we got T.I. at 2:00. And I'd be like, oh shit, excuse my language. I got to interview the mayor at 1:00, or I got a story that's due at 4:00. So we were all, and for any of you all who are into documentary filmmaking, this piece that we put together is an amazing testament to staying on deadlines, staying focused, because as Ryon said, that first meeting we had was in April of last year, and this movie came out November 4th. So we basically spent 5 and 6 months interviewing everybody, putting it together, editing, cutting, putting music, color correcting, all that stuff we did in basically 6 months. And it was basically the 5 of us who did it. So having that newspaper mentality where, Rachel, you go to work and you don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen right now. As soon as I get off this call, something can happen in downtown Atlanta that I got to run off to. So we're always under deadline pressure, and we understand what deadline pressure is. So getting this film made in 5 or 6 months, while it was a heavy burden on us, it was not a heavy burden on us that we never felt that we couldn't do it, because that's what we've been doing all of our careers.
I have a personal quest or interest in the issue of the role of Black men in American newsrooms. And so for me to have you two come and speak to the group, particularly about this topic, but just about your voice and your authority in advocating for these kinds of stories. Could you both talk to me a little bit about what your concerns are? Who's coming up under you? Who are you able to mentor? What is the urgency, if you feel it is, for Black men in American newsrooms?
Well, I came up also, I mentioned, my internship when I got my first job. I came up to do the National Association of Black Journalists. So I've been a member of that organization since I was in college. And I went on to be on the board of NABJ. And I do understand, and I'm pretty sure it's still the case, that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution has always had one of the highest percentages in the country of major newspapers of Black employees, Black writers. And if you look at us now, as Ryon said, our editor, we had the first Black editor of the paper in 155 years, one of the few Black men running a paper in the whole country. We have Black managing editors who are male and female, which is all, that's very important. And we have a lot, the photo editor is Black. The 2 or 3 of our deputy managing editors are Black. We have a lot of, one of the things about Atlanta, I don't know if anyone's from Atlanta, but one of the things about Atlanta, when you walk around Atlanta, you see all this Black achievement. You see that the mayor's Black. And you see in our documentary how we talk about, since 1973, every mayor of Atlanta has been Black. And no one flinches about that. No one thinks about that. Senator Warnock is Black. We have Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is one of the most important churches in America, right here in Atlanta. So you go to the city of Atlanta, everybody is Black. And, everybody who's running things is Black. So for our paper to reflect that, it's always very important for news organizations to reflect their communities. So we have always been very intentional in how we address Black issues, how we promote Black people. So I think that our paper does a really good job. Now, nationally and every other paper in the country, I'm not sure exactly where we are with that, but I do think the Atlanta Journal-Constitution has made an intentional effort based on the fact of where we are in the city as this Black Mecca, if you will, to have done a pretty good job in promoting and enhancing the careers of Black men and women. Yeah. And, you go on our 4:30 call every day. 8 o'clock call every day is run by Black men and Black women every day. And no one thinks about that. No one flinches about that. Our major Washington correspondent is a Black woman. Our State House reporter is a Black woman. Our photo editor is a Black woman. So
Your managing editors are Black.
the managing editors are Black. So the editor's Black. So we're right there at the forefront of all things newsworthy in the city of Atlanta. We're there and at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Yeah, and if I could add, I think the important thing is me growing up in the newsroom. I basically did grow up in the newsroom. I was 21 when I started at the newspaper, and I'm old now. But I think what was important for me is finding people who would hear me and listen, and I thought there were people, and we're not gonna sugarcoat it. There were people in the newsroom that did not give me the time or day. You know what I'm saying? Did not think that I knew what I was talking about. I had a person one time told me, I'm not giving you this position because you haven't come up the ranks like everybody else did. And what was, for me, I'm petty. Years later, I like the fact that she had to answer to me on several projects later on in the future. You know what I'm saying? I'm just petty like that. But I've had those experiences where I thought it was because I was a Black man in the newsroom, and it might have been, but I think it was better when there were more people than not that listened and heard me, you know what I'm saying, and gave me that opportunity. Dory Tony is someone who gave me that opportunity. A Black woman, another Black woman who gave me an opportunity is Robin Henry, who's now an executive producer for Disney TV, and Disney Channel and stuff, and another person who gave me an opportunity is Monica Richardson, another Black woman, who is an executive for USA Today. She was the first executive chief at Miami Herald. And also what I really loved about our newsroom too is that it was a lot of diversity in leadership to help hear me. You know what I'm saying? And so when you have people that would hear you and listen and not automatically think you don't know what you're talking about because you're of a certain age or a certain race or a certain background, but would hear you because you're coming from it in a different aspect. I'll give you one little quick example. I remember when Ahmaud Arbery, during the Ahmaud Arbery case, we were dealing with surveillance video of the house in which he would go in and out of during his runs. And they wanted to put a video together of the several different times that he would stop at this particular house during his runs. And there was one video of a white couple that went into that same house to do whatever, who knows what. And then they came out of that. And I had one editor said, no, we don't need to put that in the video. We just want to focus on Ahmaud Arbery. I went, whoa, wait a minute. I said, the problem with that is that we're taking something out that's very crucial to this whole idea of why can't a Black man stop in a abandoned house or a constructed house, but this white couple, we're not even worrying about that. You know what I'm saying? You got to think of how people perceptions of that and stuff. And so I was heard when I said that. You know what I'm saying? It was a very major situation of not leaving something out because of race. You know what I'm saying? Because we've got to be careful of not to, like, even though it may not mean nothing to us, it may mean a whole lot to a whole lot of people. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that was really helpful for me growing up in the newsroom.
I am going to ask the fellows who have questions to get ready to raise your Zoom hands and let us get started. But I want to ask one more quick question. And that is one of the terrific things I got out of the documentary was the exploration of women in hip hop. So let's talk. I know you give much credit to Deja for that, but can you both tell us why you thought it was important to have that context as well?
If
Well,
I could, oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Ernie.
Well, I mean, obviously, black women play a key role in hip hop. Black women play a key role in, making America what it is today as a great country. You see that with the support that Kamala Harris is getting. Yeah, we did talk about how Deasia came in and, she's 25 years old and is a brilliant young journalist and said, we need to focus on women more. We need to talk about what women's roles are, not only in hip hop, but also in developing this culture here in Atlanta. So we wanted to tell, we wanted to tell a whole comprehensive story. And we wanted to also tell a story that if you're not familiar with hip hop, or if you don't like hip hop, that you can take all the music out of this documentary and watch it, and you can see how Atlanta has developed over the years, how Atlanta's gone from a city that has all black mayors to the Atlanta child murders, to the events of 2020, to the role that women have played, the role that Keisha Lance Bottoms played in developing this city, the role that Shirley Franklin played in developing this city. It's all there in the film. So we definitely wanted to have that voice of the women, the voice of women told in the story.
And if I could just add real quick, I think even before that, when we were developing the team of folks that was going to work on this project, I knew that we couldn't do this without a woman on the team, because it was like, there's things that we may not intentionally with malice leave out, but a woman would help remind us what we need to be thinking about. You know what I'm saying? And so when I met Deasia, first I met Deasia over the phone, and we were talking about something else, another project and then when I met her in person, I was like, I need you to work. I need you to help me with this. I need you to help us with this and work on it. And she was like, oh, okay. So she came in and she was absolutely instrumental to the project.
I think I saw a hand. Was it Keisha? Introduce yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, hey, my name is Keisha. I'm a producer at PBS NewsHour. I'm based in Atlanta, and I'm also a proud AJC subscriber. My question for you is, there's obviously a deep need to amplify voices from the South, but not only to do that, but to do that authentically. I'm wondering what mistakes you see other outlets make when they attempt to do that, to tell stories of the South, and what advice you have to not make those mistakes when we try to do those kind of stories.
I think one of the things, and what we tried to do in the documentary, was not shape this through civil rights and not shape this through Martin Luther King Jr. I don't even know if Martin Luther King Jr. is mentioned in the film.
We see him.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that outside outlets do immediately when they talk about the South, particularly when they talk about Atlanta, is like, oh, this is where Dr. King was born, and this is where the civil rights movement was founded, which is fine, which is good. But I think it's also kind of a lazy attempt to talk about what the South is. And I think that if you live here, and it's so rich and there's so much going on, there's a lot that's happening here that's beyond, and I'm not saying anything against Dr. King or anything, but that's beyond what Dr. King is. At some point, we're going to have to figure out a way to tell these Southern stories, particularly for those outside of Atlanta, to tell a story that's not dripping in Southern sweet tea and fried chicken and Martin Luther King Jr. Because Atlanta is this great urban hub that has so much going for it in terms of business and culture, and the airport. There's so much going on that's broader than what is stereotypically looked at when outside media comes down.
Yeah, and if I could add, I would say as writers and as producers and filmmakers, I am the type of creator that wants to give my audience the benefit of the doubt. I want to assume that they know about Dr. King already. I want to assume that they know about Outkast already. I had one person tell me, man, I wanted to see all the success from Outkast and all that. I was like, why? You already know the success of Outkast. Let's talk about Goody Mob. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about how Outkast was only able to come back with another album because of the success of Goody Mob. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to talk about, Princess and Rashida and Pastor Troy, people that like. My favorite scene in the film is talking about Crime Mob. And I wish we could have talked about them a whole lot more, because when we look at, like, you know, all of these young kids in school creating a name for themselves based off of their social media, Crime Mob did that without social media. You know what I'm saying? And they are still relevant 25 years later. You know what I'm saying? And so those are the little nuggets of Atlanta life and Atlanta hip hop and culture that we as journalists, we all are looking for those nuggets that people may not know most about. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's what makes us, you know, special, because we come at things that are very different lens, and we ask different questions than what most broadcast and filmmakers may ask.
I'm going to put one of our fellows on the spot. Bradford, are you still with us?
Very much so.
So in the last session, you mentioned that how Daisy had sort of, you had hoped to be able to talk with her about her use of multimedia and other forms of ways of communicating yourself. So I wonder if you have any questions or any thoughts that you would put to these two pioneers. I mean, Ryon is him, for him to be able to state that I am the first multimedia journalist at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, to me is huge. It's amazing. And so we have access to him here. Do you have any questions for him?
Yeah. So, you know, first of all, thank you guys so much for joining. You know, Ernie, I've definitely been, you know, reading your work for some time. Yeah, and I heard of this documentary. You know, I love hip hop as well. Like I look forward to actually watching it now. But I guess my question is sort of how you guys make the case for using non-traditional forms of media with which to tell stories or connect with audiences, particularly in a landscape that at one point, maybe 10, 12 years ago, had invested heavily in like pivoting to new forms. You know, the infamous pivot to video that was spurned by the Facebook bad Facebook stats, basically, to you know, but and now we, you know, there's been just cutbacks of all sorts of journals, of whether print or multimedia and all that. And you know, and so as I think about ways I hope to again engage with people who you know, may not see the paywall, you know, who may not see stuff behind the paywall, and may not consider, you know, may not subscribe, but still need to hear what we're talking about. Like, you know, basically, how do you conceive of these things, and how do you again make the case positively to your newsroom of like, yeah, we gotta do this.
It's weird because everything is changing. You know what I'm saying? In the before, you know, in the newsroom, in the print journalism newsroom, in the print newsroom, no one knew or had any idea of what, you know, video journalism was. You know what I'm saying? No one knew how to do it. No one knew what they were doing. And so with me, I just kind of figured out that, well, I know how to write a story, and I know how to shoot a story. I know how to capture audio. I have a real, you know, cinematic background of like what I love, you know, cinematography and DP wise and stuff like that. And so I just to be honest with you, I learned like I was in college. Like, you learn how to construct a story. I learned how to construct a video story. And when I would present it, or I present the ideas to everybody in the newsroom, they would be like, you know, they were like, okay, they didn't know. And then it would just turn out I had a lot of freedom in my creative process. And it's just, I don't know, it's tough because now it's, you know, it's becoming a more, you know, everybody's doing it now. And there's so many trends, and there's so many ideas of what good video and what does well on YouTube and algorithms and all that BS. And it's like, you know, I just want to tell a story video wise. You know what I'm saying? I just want to tell a good video story. I just want to tell a good journalistic story. And so it's for me to be an old head now. I'm learning how to still configure that good journalism into what is believed to be the trend of how people are accepting the footage or accepting the stories and stuff like that. So those are like still like it's still a learning process of like how all this is working. People still don't know how to sell ads to video. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so it's like it's still a learning process, even though video's been a thing online since 2005. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so it's a still learning process for everybody, especially for me, even though I've been doing it for a long time.
Ryon, having calculated that I'm probably about 15 years older than you, I'm gonna need you to stop calling yourself.
So listen, this is the difference. Me calling myself old, all black women, y'all got the cheat code. So you could be 90 years old looking like you 25. So y'all just don't even get in the conversation of being old at all. Me, I got all this gray hair. My bones crack every now and then.
Well, you just redeemed yourself.
Okay.
I took you off my hit list. Did I see another hand?
Yes.
Oh, is that Ambar?
Yes.
Go ahead and introduce yourself and ask your question.
Hi, I'm Ambad. I'm part of Epicenter NYC, local news outlet that's part of URL Media Network. Thank you guys both for speaking. I'm interested in when I Google Ernie, it talks about your Black History Month projects and how you've been overseeing that, and that's such a big part of you. And I don't know if also Ryon, but I'm curious, because I'm part of a newsroom where leadership is like, they don't want to do like Black History Months or Hispanic Heritage Months, and they don't want to do these like time-packed projects because the rationale of like, oh, we already cover these issues and like these communities like year-round. Given that you guys also always cover these issues, like that's a part of your, like it's embedded in at your organization. How do you navigate like making like time-pegged special projects on these like brief history lessons that you do and everything, and making the case for that and getting buy-in from that when it is already embedded in your DNA?
Well, you have to have people who are above you, who believe in you, who believe in the project. The Black History Month series is entering its 10th year in February. It'll be the 10th year. But 9 years ago, as we were kind of looking at different ways to promote ourselves and to get subscriptions and to get people to read the paper, I decided 11 years ago, I decided to create a Facebook page that would curate all of our Black content. So all the Black content that we were doing at the paper, I put together a paper-sponsored Facebook page that would curate all that stuff. So you wake up every morning, go to what was called AJC Sepia, and you would see everything that pertains to Black culture or Black Atlanta that we had written the previous day. Then I developed that into a Black History Month series. Basically, Atlanta, you're right, Atlanta, and I'm basically the Black History Month reporter every day. So we're writing that stuff every day, but we decided that we're in Atlanta, we have a large Black readership, and we need to put this together in one place in February where we're going to write Black History Month stories, but let's have a focus on it. Let's do something that is specific to February, that's unique to us, that we can sell to our readers. And I say sell in a general form, that we can present to our readers, that's going to be concise, it's going to be well produced, well written, everything, and have it all. Our Black History Month series is unique in that it runs every day of the month with fresh stories, fresh videos. So it's a huge, huge undertaking. The paper jumped on the idea when I came up with it 9 years ago, and they've supported it ever since. So it's just a matter of having people behind you who are going to accept it, who are willing to accept, and who are willing to follow through. For example, when we started the Black History Month series, we tried, March is Women's History Month series. So that first year, we also did a Women's History Month series that following month. It didn't go as well as the Black History Month series, and the people who were behind that Women's History Month series kind of fell off, and they decided that they weren't going to continue to pursue it. So you need people who are upstairs who want to do it, and people who want to do it, who are going to be committed to keeping it going. And with our Black History Month series, the whole newsroom participates, Black and white, is what's great about it is that it gives people an opportunity. We have an environmental reporter who's a wonderful he's a white gentleman, but he covers environment, and he wants to write a story every year about how environmental racism is something that hurts Black communities or hurts poor communities. So, he does that. And the guy who's covering our YSL trial, which is a big trial here, he covers our courts, and he's a very serious reporter. He's a white person as well. He wrote a story last year about this boxer named Tiger Flowers, who was the first Black, boxing superstar to come out of Atlanta in the 1920s. So what we've been able to find through this Black History Month series is that everybody at the paper wants to participate, and everybody at the paper has great ideas about what they want to do in terms of telling stories that might not necessarily be on their beat. So if you find people who are invested in the project's going to be very successful.
We have time for one more question, if there is one. If not, I'm going to jump in. I don't see any hands. So let me ask you to give us the sort of update on how the response to the documentary has been and what your plans are for maybe a follow-up.
The response has been really overwhelming. And I think for me, I don't know about Ernie, but for me, I was really excited that everybody that watches the documentary loves it and stuff. But for me, it was really important for the people who were in the documentary to sign off on it. People who should have been in the documentary still signed off on it. I remember when we had the premiere, and one of the people that was in the film, his name is DJ Jelly, and he's a guy that's been in the game for a long time. And I watched him watch the film the entire time. He stood up, and he stood up watching the film the entire time, and I could see his facial expressions and his nods of everything that he agreed with. And he was just like, I was like, the whole entire movie I'm watching, and he was like, yeah. And it's like stuff like that, and to see Killer Mike watch his scene and become teary-eyed, and for Keisha Lance Bottoms, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, to say that she can't ever watch the film without, crying. And this is a music documentary. People crying at a music documentary is really awesome to me, I think, in a good way, you know what I'm saying? And so the responses have been really well. We've been in 9 film festivals, won several awards, won a national award at NABJ, and we're up for a Scripps Award. We're finalists for a Scripps Award that's going to be announced next month. And so, yeah, it's been really awesome. It's been, I'm hoping that we could do a South Got Something to Say Memphis, Houston, Miami, Mississippi, South Carolina, New Orleans, all
I did a story for National Geographic about the hip hop scene, the rap scene in Louisiana. And so I would love to see you guys do that. Ernie?
Yeah, it's been the response has been out of this world. Like I said, I'm an old newspaper reporter who's used to writing a story and looking at it in the paper the next day, and somebody might see me at a restaurant and say, "Hey, I like your story," but this has taken on a life of its own. We've been all over the country touring this film at film festivals, which has been amazing. Something I never thought I would do. We've been up for all these awards, like Ryan said. We were just notified Friday, I believe, that we were up for Scripps Howard Award, which is one of many awards that we've been up for. So it's been really good. It's a really, really, and I tell people this all the time, 27 years at the newspaper, I've won every major award you can win except the Pulitzer. I don't know what's going on with the Pulitzer Prize. I've done everything I can do as a journalist. And I've had a really nice career, but this right here is the greatest thing I've ever done, and the proudest thing I've ever been a part of. Ryan talks about Killer Mike and the mayor crying, and I only watch it, I can watch it anytime, but I only watch it now at film festivals, because, I've seen it a million times, and not that I don't want to see it, but, I've seen it a million times, and I always love to, go to film festivals and get a seat. Every time I watch it, I get emotional because it's such a beautifully made film, and also it's something that I participated in. I participated in making this beautiful journalistic storytelling news product, and it gets me every time I watch it. So, if you ever watch the film with me, make sure you bring some tissues and don't look at me crazy when you see me crying, because it's just something I'm really, really proud of, and I really hope that we can expand it and do something else to kind of grow the product, grow the brand.
I could literally stay on this call with y'all all day, but I'm going to wrap this session up by asking you both to give the journalists your takeaway, what you got something to say about their careers and sticking around and being here 10, 15, 20 years from now, if that's what they want to do. What advice do you have to offer them?
My advice quickly would be to stay nimble, and just stay ready to change. There are a lot of people who started with me or who were with me in my generation. I'm still, I got gray hair, but I'm still kind of young, who are not in the business anymore for one reason or another. And I think that what I've been able to do is kind of continuously redefine my career. When Ambar talked about the Black History Month series 10 years ago, that was during a time during the paper when we were laying people off and people were leaving the industry and things were changing quick in the industry. So I was like, well, what am I going to do to kind of make myself relevant, right? So I said, I'm going to make this Facebook page. I'm going to start this Black History Month series to kind of figure out a different way in which we can disseminate stories and for me to get more clicks on my stories. And I think that's something you have to start thinking about, or you have to think about as to how, not to be selfish, but how are you going to survive in this industry? And I think myself and Ryon, as he said in his opening statement, have figured out ways that we can kind of survive. Now, they may call us tomorrow and say, hey, we're going to lay you guys off, but we've worked hard and we've worked smart to kind of keep ourselves relevant, to keep ourselves needed and respected in this industry and in this newsroom. So I think if you do that, if you do those kind of things, if you're willing to take chances, if you're willing to continue to learn, then you do very well in this industry.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, like Ernie said earlier, I never took no for an answer, and then if I saw that the no was standing, then I just figured another way out or another way around it. I think it's important to know that your voice is important. And if we continue to focus on the root of what we're doing, which is journalism, I feel that journalism will never die. It is the ways in which we present it that come and go. You know what I'm saying? So, we're probably around the last lap on print. We're probably on the last lap of what print means to this country. But I think as the study of print, the understanding of journalism and the understanding of how to get the story and what to do and the ethics of it and the dignity behind it, I think none of that will ever die. And you could apply all of those things that you learn, all the principles of journalism, you can apply to that in any form or fashion whatsoever. The challenge is going to come is whether or not you're going to speak up when you see those ethics and those things are challenged by ways outside of our own. You know what I'm saying? It's like, when we see, are we more concerned about, accuracy or concerned about, timeliness? You know what I'm saying? It's like, so it's like those things that we got to kind of stay true to. And, but yeah, your voice is important. What we're doing is important. Even when people say, oh, we do that already. No, it's like, it's important. Everything we're doing is important. And, so we just got to have that notion in the back of our minds when we hear those no's. And, we're going to spend most of our life getting rejected. Just a matter of, how we're going to respond to the rejection. And I hate rejection. I hate it to the core, but I know how to respond to it. And I know how to not let it eat me alive and just continue to find better ways to do it.
On that last powerful and potent bit of advice, I want to take this opportunity to thank Ernie Suggs and Ryon Horne for joining us to not only tell us about the South got something to say and the process of making that remarkable documentary, but just advising us on strategies for remaining in this business and for excelling in this business. So, gentlemen, thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
You can find if you haven't sent a link, you can find the link to the film at ajc.com/hip hop. And that also has all the stories that the and I wrote accompanying the series, as well as lists, playlists, 50 greatest rappers, 50 greatest songs, all that stuff's in there. So check it out.
Thank you.